that's not just gonna buff out. And if you're in the market for a new or fairly new car, well, you're not gonna want it breaking down like that one. That's right, today on Idealist, cars that you need to avoid at all costs. Now, 27 is a lot, so to stay organized, we're going alphabetical, baby, which means we get to start in actually a really surprising place, the ACURA RLX. Yeah, it floors me too. But you see, even Honda can create a reliability lemon, and their diamond-studded legend is that lemon. Called the RLX here in the States, the car's priced way more than its competitors, which means it's certainly not worth putting up with one of the worst reliability scores that ACURA has ever received. These cars have quite a few problems actually, but transmission failure is the big one. Now, much more expected is the tiny Chevy CRUZ. It's cheap, it's made of plastic, brakes a lot, and frankly, there's just nothing redeemable about it. A used Civic will serve you way better and is 100 times more fun to drive. Now, I thought the CRUZ was actually a pretty good looking little car when they first came out, but honestly, do yourself a favor and just stay away.
So now that you know it's a hatchback with lots of room, what does it make you think of?
Makes me think of someone's gonna overpay for a piece of shit.
Sticking with Chevy for a moment, it breaks my heart that I can't recommend a Suburban. Old Suburbans are reliability kings and absolute workhorses. Ever since 2014 though, they've been going way downhill. And for the last 8 years, they've been rated with the lowest reliability scores in their class. You've got your standard engine failure and severe amounts of electrical gremlins, but the nail in the coffin is the frame. Yeah, apparently the frame likes to twist and break. Yikes. Now, domestics still just can't quite hit import reliability, which is why following Chevy is Chrysler, with a totally lackluster 200. There's not much to say about it. It's a little car, it's completely outclassed by almost everything with 4 doors, but it somehow costs more to own. Sprinkle in a ton of minor but frequent engine problems, and you should just avoid this disaster. And things don't get any better if you go big, since the Chrysler Pacifica is a total heap as well. Now, to paint a picture for you, on a list of least reliable cars from Consumer Reports and Motor Authority, the Pacifica is the only van to make an appearance. That shows that not only is Fiat doing something wrong, but there are clearly ways for them to solve the problem without charging so much. Yeah, the Fiat train is on fire, and not in a good way, since the Dodge Dart is next. Now, honestly, the Dart stands alone as one of the least terrible cars on the list, but that doesn't mean it's any good. The worst brakes in the class, coupled with an unreliable transmission, mean that there are much better options if you want a decent car. The Fiat 500 is not one of those options. This shouldn't surprise anyone. We've mentioned many times that the 500 is a flaming pile of Italian engineering. And while we can't just say don't buy a Fiat, we're just gonna point out that the little 500 is especially bad. Frankly, it's just a bad time for little cars, since the Ford Fiesta is still bad. 1 in 3. That's the number of people who have major issues. Roll a dice. If it's a 1 or a 2, your car's in the shop. That goes for the Fiesta's big brother too, since other than being a little bit bigger, the Ford Focus is basically the same car. And that means suspension and transmission problems are, you guessed it, the same. Now, I promise it's not all domestics and Italians. After all, Japan has Nissan. And next up is the Infiniti Q50. Now, I wouldn't say the Q50 is the most unreliable car. It's actually not terrible in that regard. But it is basically the worst handling and worst riding, and has the worst fuel economy in its class. And it's not any cheaper than any of the competition. So yeah, avoid. Let's see, after I comes J. J for Jeep. Uh-oh, back to Fiat land. Let's lightning round these because it can be a little overwhelming. The Cherokee is underpowered, has serious frequent transmission issues, and an interior that will fall apart. The Compass is just like the Cherokee, except it has even less power. The Grand Cherokee, Trackhawk not included, is the worst of the bunch. You know there's issues when a car has more than 15 major recalls. The Patriot is literally just a Jeep Compass, so another underpowered Cherokee, and it's somehow even worse though. since unlike most Jeeps, it has terrible resale value. One last Jeep, and this one hurts. But you probably should avoid a Wrangler. The Wrangler's problems are well documented, and have been for a really long time. We even made an extensive video about it. The big difference this year is that now the Wrangler has real competition with the Bronco, plus a new and improved 4Runner. There's no reason to get a Wrangler unless you just really need that Jeep life, which I understand. After all, I still love a Jeep, just maybe get an older one. And it's the same story with the Maserati GHIBLI. What, you thought we could make an idealist video without mentioning Maserati? You fool! The Trident always calls to us! We sometimes joke about buying a used one because they're cheap as hell, since they depreciate more than any other vehicle, which should be your biggest reason to never consider buying a new one, or even a lightly used one. Same with Mercedes, specifically the cheaper A-Class. When you buy a Mercedes, you expect perfection, not electrical problems, poor performance, and terrible service. But that's exactly what you get with an A-Class. Still, better than the Mercedes GLE, aka the least reliable vehicle of the last decade. Now I know that's really harsh, but when nearly 50% of consumers report major issues, no matter how schwanky you want to feel, Mercedes GLE isn't the answer. Next is a sad one, since Mini Coopers are fun to drive. But it doesn't matter how much fun they are if you never get to actually drive them. Unfortunately, a Cooper Countryman will spend way more time in the shop than on the road. So probably best to avoid these little cars. Like I said earlier, frankly, it's just a bad time for little cars. The 500, the Fiesta, the Cooper, all of them, not great. The worst though might be the Mitsubishi Mirage. Do we even need to say anything? 74 horsepower in 2022. Next.
Oh, hello there!
No, wait, maybe we don't want the next one. It's the Nissan Juke. Basically, the Juke is bad, but really it's just any Nissan with a CVT. That transmission is so bad, it's the reason that an entire generation fears CVTs. Their big vehicles aren't a lot better, with the Pathfinder being another no-go. And I don't know what Nissan's thinking, since the crossover market is the most competitive market there is, and they just don't bring their A game. Since the Pathfinder has a terrible interior, no power, and worst of all, it's one of the least reliable crossovers money can buy. Still, it's better than the Range Rover Evoque. Oh, Land Rover. For some reason, you just can't make a car that doesn't cost more to own than it does to buy. But everyone expected that. Hey, don't buy one of the most appreciating vehicles ever, that we always tell you to avoid, right? There's still curveballs though, like the Subaru Ascent. No, not Subaru. Well, actually, if you've been following the saga of the CVT WRX, which you're probably not surprised that they have some serious lemons. While the Crosstrek and Outback rank among the best in reliability, the Ascent joins the 10 worst. Small Subaru good, big Subaru bad. Same with, and I have my hate hat out, Tesla and their Model Y. Okay, Elon fans, I know you think everyone that criticizes Tesla is a total idiot, but this isn't the Model S or Model 3. You guys are safe. The Model Y, though, has some serious flaws, including frequent door malfunctions and a leaking climate control system. That's especially bad for Tesla since now there are like 100 cars that compete directly with the Model Y. So if you need that plaid power, stick with the X or the S. All right, home stretch, last two, starting with the VW Tiguan. Now it's not the least reliable SUV, that's actually the next one, but it is up there. The only thing that saves it from being a total lemon is that the repairs, which you will have to make, aren't super expensive. Unlike the repairs you'll have to do with the Volvo XC90. Unfortunately, it's got the trifecta of awful. Long repair times, super high repair costs, and frequent repairs. Volvo has come a long way since the 240. And they've definitely had their share of mishaps on the long road they've taken to get to where they are today. Brand new Volvos are actually pretty good, but that early XC90, and that's the list. Which one are you gonna go out and buy despite my warning? Just promise me it's not the GLE, okay? Otherwise, check out this Idealist video, consider subscribing to the channel, and make sure to follow us on TikTok and Instagram. See you guys next time.